Welcome everybody to Beers with Bill. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce Bibo and Chris from Third Moon Brewing, and we're going to be starting with the porter. And I'm just going to let the two of you take it from here.
All right. Well, thanks for having us, Bill. This is it's going to be a nice time just hanging out and having a few beers, which Bibo and I legitimately don't get to do ever, because we're always doing stuff at the brewery. So we're looking forward to hanging with you guys. We've got 4 beers we're going to go through. We're starting with the Marshmallow Death Dealer. It is a porter, and I'll let Bibo, who's here as well, tell us about the inspiration of the recipe. But this is a porter with vanilla and toasted marshmallow.
So the idea for this beer is I love porters, and Founders London Porter is one of my all-time favorites. And when I was in London, I drank a whole bunch of it. I just love it. I love the balance of it. It's super chocolatey and roasty. So I kind of was using on a homebrew scale that recipe is like a jumping off point. So the base for this beer is sort of an English porter. It's low IBUs just to keep the focus on the malt and the sort of chocolate, keep it nice and rich. So we did a double batch of it. So we split half of it just straight up, just regular porter, and then the other half, Chris just casually was like, I'd like a marshmallow porter. So we decided to throw a bunch of marshmallows in there. So that could be a hard flavor to get into a beer. So we also used vanilla. But yeah, I went to a Walmart and I bought every marshmallow in that Walmart, and we spent an afternoon just toasting marshmallows. And we started very lovingly, getting every nook a perfect golden. And by the end, I was just like blow torching just to get it done because there was so many of them. And yeah, we fill up a huge monstrous bag with marshmallows, let it sit in there for a while. And yeah, so this is what we got.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
And it was the winter at that point, and Bibo looked at me and said, "Can we make a porter? I'd like to make a porter." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. It's the perfect time of year." And we thought, let's have something that all winter long people know they can reach for. So just happy to add it to our lineup and add another style in our journey of exploring all the things on the professional scale that Bibo's been doing on a homebrewing scale for more than a decade. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. So we really hung our hat on IPAs in sort of really heavy adjuncted stouts, and that's what we're trying to build our brand to be. But also, like, that's not the only kind of beers we like to drink, and that's not the only kind of beers I like to brew. So finding that balance between being able to be a little more creative and try different things, but also having to fit that into our brand and our portfolio, and also having to sell it. It's a delicate balance, and it's something that, especially, opening up and now just like living in the COVID world, the packaged beer game is much different than the draft beer game. So I think if we had a tap room people could come sit down at, we'd probably have a couple lagers going at all times and different little one-off treatments, but knowing that we got to sell a good amount of it in cans, that kind of dictates a lot of what we're doing when we're choosing beers and choosing what ingredients to put into them. So it's a balance. We're learning as we go.
So Bibo, Terry and Emma threw it up here. What's the difference between a stout and a porter?
They're probably it's probably a nod to a previous call I was on. Well, really, I think, all stouts are porters. So porters, like the bigger, sort of dark beers, are all porters, and then stouts originally were stronger versions, or it's a stout porter. So some people say like roasted barley is in a stout and not a porter, but that's not really the case. So yeah, it's really just just what you choose to call it. Like we could easily have called this beer a stout, and I've had stouts that were lighter in body and lighter in flavor than some porters. So it's a lot of marketing, but I always think a porter should be pretty roasty, pretty chocolatey, and not as sweet as a stout. That's just personal preference.
So Chris,
Yes, sir.
the two of you, according to your bio, you met via an app. Can you sort of elaborate on that?
Oh, well, I guess almost everyone on the call is probably using Untapped. And so Bebo and I have been on there for a few years, and it's kind of weird. You add all these friends that you think you have like-minded tastes and feelings about the industry, and you sort of build this group of friends. But that was the moment when we actually were able to meet, that kind of started this whole journey. And so Gary and Carrie, they arranged this get together at the Ship in Hamilton, place we used to love going to drink pints. And we all met, and Bebo and I ended up across from each other at the table. So you're there with a bunch of people you've never actually met before. And we just started talking, and immediately, just we're really getting into it, getting pretty nerdy pretty quickly. And finding that everything out of each other's mouth was like, yeah, I know. And so we just got wound up talking about beer, and it led to many bottle shares where we would get together, and even planning the brewery on Wednesday night. We get together usually at my place, and people would get dropped off and Uber back home. And we crushed like 12 bombers of barrel-aged stout, talking about, the things we'd love to do if we had our own brewery. And we really we started planning, and making time for it was really the most important thing. Making time for it, to plan it out. And then finally we just got to the point where we were like, okay, we got to do this. We can't keep talking about it, because the scene is changing constantly. And the things that we want to brew, that we know the Ontario market needs right now, we can't miss the boat anymore. We just got to get in there. And we were almost open when the pandemic hit. And then we just said, well, let's just do the only thing we can do right now. And we always wanted to have a small model to start and perfect it, and then add a layer of complexity only then. And then when we master that, add another thing, and not bite off more than we could chew, and then not be able to deliver the right experience for our customers. So the pandemic really got us focused. And it's been an amazing ride so far, 9 months in. And it's because of all of you guys on the call and everyone listening and your support that we didn't go bankrupt. And everything we put into this is not at complete risk right now. And we just keep brewing the best beers we can brew again and again.
Bebo, you did a couple of collabs. One that comes to mind immediately to me is the one at Great Lakes. How did those collabs influence your desire to be a brewery owner?
Yeah, so the GLB one, so the first one I did was at Granite in Toronto. We did an IPA that was at Cask Days. So that was that was pretty wild. Like I love Granite. I love those kind of English cask beers that they do. So that was awesome. But then GLB, when that came together, so Short Finger had a IPA competition, and the one I submitted did well. So I got I got invited to brew a big batch of it at GLB. And just like emailing recipes with Lackey, and then going in there and talking shop with him. It was just like a very formative experience. To, I learned a ton, but even more than learning a ton, I was like taken seriously. Like I was, working at a bank and kind of, making small batches of homebrew on the weekend, and have like the most recognizable celebrity brewer in the province, like talking to me like an equal. Just it was really really inspiring. So um, at that point, the Third Moon was well underway with our business planning and things like that. So it wasn't really a trigger, but it was more it was you know, I don't know the right word to say, but like it really encouraged me that, I was on the right path, that this was something that I wanted to do personally, and I felt like I was going to be able to do and not, completely flounder and totally ruin everything. So it was super cool. And they were awesome. Like everything about GLB is just awesome. So it was a really cool experience.
Mr. Lackey's been an influence on a large number of the microbrews across the province, the guys that have started them. So I understand that. Was there ever a moment when you realized that you needed to stop talking about having a brewery and start to build one? Or did that just go across all like the time?
There was no, like, looking back, there was no one moment. I think that if I had to point to one moment, it was like when I approached Chris to like actually formalize this, to get him in the fold with it. That felt like a big point, but it like slowly built from like, hey, we should do this, to kind of like kicking around numbers to see if it's feasible, and then kind of looking into laws. And it wasn't like, it felt organic. So I wouldn't say that there was at any point like a decision like, hey, we're doing this. It was just like, at one point I looked up and I'm like, we're too far into this to not do it. So I guess this is happening. So
Yeah, I did sort of feel like that. I mean, we were putting every spare minute into it that we had just to plan it. And talk about the strategy was really, it took a long time to hammer that out, but it didn't take a long time to align on what we wanted to do, because we both really wanted to do the same things. And I guess we both enjoy similar beers and appreciate similar things in those beers. And I have to say, it sounds like a cliche to say you gotta, you can do anything you put your mind to. There's certainly a lot of risk and chance and, things that you can't control, but you have to actually do something to achieve something. And so us kind of making that time every week and doing it, it sort of just built this this amount of effort that we'd thrown at the project. And it was like, sometimes you feel up about it, sometimes you feel down, but then you just look back at what we'd accomplished, and it just seemed like together we were knocking things off the list. And as long as you knock something off the list every day, you just chip away at it, and then next thing you know, you're open, and then it's all on the line. Pretty thrilling. It's scary.
glossed over a couple years of intense misery. Yeah, like we when our original place was, and it's funny looking back, like, talking about these like little milestones. We put in an offer to lease, and Chris came over and we were hugging, and my wife was taking pictures, and we busted out these crazy beers we've been saving. And it was just like such a turning point. And then like the next day they send it back with all these changes, and it was whatever. And then that place we were in for like 3 months, and ultimately the city of Burlington wouldn't approve us, so we had to back out of it. And thankfully the lawyers put some clauses in there that we were able to back out of it. So then we were, it was a pretty miserable couple weeks. We were super down. It's funny, like looking back, like that felt like such a turning point. And then after, it felt like the dumbest, stupid little thing to celebrate. But there's a lot of little points along the way where you gotta stop and realize, like, you get really in the weeds with like just the bureaucratic stuff or the construction and all that. And at a certain point, it's like, man, we're accomplishing a lot.
So before I prompt you to do the next beer, I do have one question at the top. which one of you ate the most marshmallows while you were roasting them?
Uh, I don't know. I didn't eat too many of them. They got really gross really quickly. It's like, you know, people who work at like fast food. They're so like, if you work at McDonald's, you'll never eat McDonald's. If you roast an entire Walmart worth of marshmallows, you will not crave marshmallows.
Can well imagine. Which beer are we going to do sample next?
Let's do a vote. IPA or slushy? Give me a sec to guzzle the rest of my porter. Damn, that's a fine porter.
So we do the slushy. I'll just talk real quick. So we've been doing these beers, and we've got some complaints that the cans were bursting. So we printed out cards to give to everybody, and we went even a step further. Now we put a sticker on the top of each one of them that says, basically, keep it cold, drink it soon.
It's true. And you can store it upside down in your fridge so all that fruit doesn't get stuck to the bottom of the can. Some people even put these in the freezer for over an hour.
Some people drink too many beers and then put one in the freezer and forget about it and open the freezer the next day, and it's exploded everywhere.
Things could be much worse though. They could explode elsewhere.
Yeah. And speaking of slushies, I see we got Mark from Princess on. Is that Mark? We just released last week a slushy collab we did with him. So we call them slushies. Some people call them smoothies, but it's basically like a sour beer hit with a ridiculous amount of fruit puree right before packaging. So yeah, we had a lot of fun with Mark thinking of different ideas, and all the different fruit combinations we're going to come up with is always, it's fun, it's exciting, it's scary, and then it's like really challenging to source that much fruit from different suppliers. So it's like this little hell I've made for myself.
So Terry and Emma were curious where you first tried a slushy.
Chris bought one back from the Answer. It was a crowler, and it was like a passion fruit one. And I remember, like, I had heard of it, but when he opened it and poured it, I'm like, what the hell is that? And then we started to drink it, and I remember just like, how was that even a thing? Like, so ridiculous.
Where did my beer go?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun coming up with the different ideas for him, but to think that that was years ago we had that, and I didn't have anything like that again for a while after.
Yeah, then we were lucky enough to try some from, Mortalis, 450 North. I mean, there's so many actually good ones that I've had, but 95% of them have been from those three breweries. And I think it worked out to be about $30 a can by the time we got them up here. So Bibo and I left our day jobs to do this and are still not taking a salary. So we looked at each other and said, well, we better stop buying these beers. Like we got to pay for food and stuff for our families. We better start brewing them here. That's the only way out of this. So that's what we did.
So brewing this was a salvation for you. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, yeah, all the beers. It's like, yay, I love drinking this beer so much. I don't have to buy a beer I want to drink tonight. Can drink our own.
How did you guys feel when you learned that Third Moon had been voted one of the best new breweries in the world?
Share, Bibo. How did it feel?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was like pretty overwhelming. It was like I was telling you, Bill, like going back through previous years to see other breweries that have been on that list was like pretty overwhelming. So it, it's tough to say like without sounding cliche, but it's just an amazing thing. And like Chris and I both had the experience, and Chris put it really well that like in my life, other than like, you know, having kids or getting married, like I've never had more people reach out to me about that, like friends, coworkers, family members, distant, like it was pretty wild, like the reach that got. So that was like ridiculously overwhelming.
That's true. I don't think I thought about the full. Well, I did obviously if I said it, but like the different walks of life, the different circles of people in your life, and there are a few events that kind of bring everyone together. So that was a pretty nice feeling. I think we're still trying to process it because the borders are closed, so it's like it's not much that matters outside of Ontario where our liquor license is. So if nobody else can come here from further away, then you know the local market is what matters the most. So hopefully when the border's up, people who heard about that or saw that or learned of us through that still remember us and come visit, but not too quickly, but sometime soon.
So this, you've alluded to the disappointment of like having a space and then not being able to use that space. The space that you're in now, how did that feel when you finally walked in there for the first time and knew this was it?
So the first time we saw it, we were on like this marathon. So after we were in that Burlington place and that fell through, it was pretty devastating. And so then we're just like, okay, we gotta go hard at this. So that was like a marathon day where we went around with our real estate agent and our engineers, and we went to like see a bunch of different places. And that was the first one, and it was like it was fine. Like it checked the boxes we need, and we're just like looking for kind of like a big empty space. There was this like hideous little office that you walk in, and it's like this carpet that just says like 60 years of just like cigarette smoke just buried into it, and like this tiny little ceiling with this like, it just was like this super depressing like weird little office. There's no, like some private investigator would just sit in there or something, and it was so just weird. And I remember thinking like, how the hell are we even gonna like it just seemed, I didn't have that ability to like envision what this would look like. So actually after we signed the offer, we went back again with the engineer, and they were really plotting it out, and we were sitting there looking around. I was like, well, how is this isn't even gonna, like, okay, I guess we're gonna work. But yeah, once they got in there with some sledgehammers and ripped that all out, we're like, okay, I can start to see it now.
Yeah, it's not exactly ideal to pay for the demolition of stuff that is in the place you're now paying for.
Yeah.
But I remember when that was cleaned out, and it had like red and blue and white on the walls. It looked like my first thought was, let's use this as a hockey rink. Like it was already set up. It was beautiful. And I remember your kids were running around there, and we had pictures of them, and I think I took video of it. It was quite an overwhelming moment to realize right then and there, okay, well now we're on the hook for this. So, but each thing was just, that we did, it just built steam. And it was like, wow, we actually did this. Okay, let's keep going. The next thing, okay, next thing. And yeah, that was a special moment for sure.
So the past year's been, to say it the least, a little bit of a wild ride between planning and working towards getting the brewery open, to having the pandemic happen, to finally launching your first beer. How do Bebo and Chris stay grounded?
Very easily. We just like I'm home with my kids, and then I go to the brewery, and we just like clean all day long, and then come home and go to bed. It's not a very glamorous existence. It's probably seems a lot more glamorous from outside. It's just like, today we like moved a couple beers around, checking carbonation, cleaning, like just, you know, it never ends. It's very easy to get lost in the work. And there's only four of us. It's the same four of us that have been since the beginning. So we just kind of have our roles, go into our job, go home. So I'd say it's much easier to stay grounded than not. There's no not being grounded.
As many hours as we do put in, I am thankful for it, because being able to come to the brewery, thank goodness we are an essential service, or we would have just lost our entire life's anything. And we just, it feels normal to go to a place and see the same people, and that's outside of the walls of your house. And so just going to the brewery and working every day is something that has helped us to feel normal. And so I don't feel as squirrely as I imagine I would if I was still doing my previous job, working from home the entire week. So we got a good little team there, and I think it keeps us all more normal than we would be.
So how did COVID change the message for you two? How you wanted to present your beer, how you want to present your brewery? How did it change that message?
I don't think it changed it. I would say it focused it. So like I was kind of alluding to before, let's say we had a brewery and it was a big tap room, and you come and sit down and people would have pints and flights and stuff. We would be making probably a more accessible range of beers. Whereas, if we're focused on canned beers or packaged beers, it's IPAs, double IPAs, triple IPAs, high ABV stouts. Like we're trying to stay relevant and make the kind of beers that people feel like they can't go to the LCBO or the beer store and get, that they would need to come get from us.
Which
So
generally are the beers that we drink.
yeah, it's the ones we like to drink. We're not like did some market focus group and realize this is what's selling and we're doing, like, these are the beers we love. Like Chris was saying, these are the beers we drink. But I love pale ales, and I would like to make a pale ale, but I was warned by a bunch of breweries that canned pale ales don't sell too well. Definitely not compared to like a double IPA or a triple IPA. So it was things like that more focus what we were trying to do. And also, like Chris was saying, we like to like tackle one area and feel like we got a good handle on it and move to another. So we just had pickups on Saturday for a long time. Then we added Friday. Then we added deliveries. Now we're doing home deliveries. We've added, started doing remote drops at other breweries. We're going to start ramping up soon. So we're trying to like make sure we're staying focused, and whatever we're doing, we want people to expect that it's going to be quality and they're going to, have some sort of positive experience from it. Whereas let's say there was no COVID, I imagine by now we would have a tap room that's open probably 6 or 7 days a week. We would have a much different business model. Everything about it would be different, but probably not as focused as it is right now.
I mean, we always plan to have the model that we have now. We just also, we're going to have a tap room. So, the product mix would have been totally different, but we knew that we wanted to get beer into people's hands quickly. And so really focusing on making sure when you show up with your order number, here's your beer as fast as possible, is really important to us, because we know everyone's time is important. People are on their way doing errands, getting groceries, whatever they got to do, rushing back to, help with the baby, whatever's going on. What we got to do is make sure that When people come organized, we're organized. Get them in, get them out, faster than Tim Hortons, done.
So what do the two of you see that's new and exciting in the craft beer industry right now?
I think for me, like to so I'm from Chicago. I was born and raised there, and the beer scene there is much different than it is here. And I think a big part of that is the liquor laws. You can go into any gas station and buy beer. You can go into a grocery store and find barrel aged stouts, and you can go into specialty bottle shops and find crazy stuff from all over. And that's just normal and taken for granted. And then I moved to Quebec, which is better than here, but it was quite a big change. And then when I moved to Ontario, I remember I didn't really understand like the liquor laws and things like that. And I went into a beer store and I was so excited, and it was like, finding out Santa isn't real. Like, what is this? You just get like a 2 for a moose head or blue, and that's it. Like, how is this? So anyway, LCBO would bring in some decent beers, but then if you go across to Buffalo, you go to Premier, and there's like, it looks like the behind Chris right now. So, for me, I think the most exciting thing is this kind of how the government changed it. So we can now have these independent bottle shops. So like Mark that Princess just puts his heart and soul into finding cool beers that he thinks people are going to like, and that new distribution model, a new way for people to get beer. And you go to buy beer, and unlike at the beer store, the LCBO, they actually know what they're talking about and care and can have a personal opinion and add value to your experience. I think that that's the most exciting thing, and that's the wave of the future. That I would hope that in a couple of years, going into the LCBO for beer would be as irrelevant as it is right now for most of everyone on this call to go into a beer store for beer. And it's independent bottle shops are the heart and soul of it.
Yeah, you have those people in your life that will tell you about, oh, have you heard this band? You got to check out this band. There's people you hear about, new music from, and you come to trust those people. It's the same thing with beer. If there's someone that is, curating a list of beer that you're going to enjoy, wouldn't you rather buy from that person? And a small business that does this, that's who can react quickly and actually deliver the experience that bigger companies just can't. So there's a real opportunity for that right now.
Bebo, would you like to talk to us about the double milk bone?
Sure. So everybody chug your slushy. So Milkbone, double Milkbone, first of all, that's a hilariously bad name, and it makes me laugh every time I think about it. So we have our flagship sort of beer is Bone Tree. It's an all Citra IPA. And then we did double Bone Tree. And then we were going to do a lactose version, and we were going to call it, I think we're just going to call it like Bone Tree with lactose or whatever. I don't even remember how, but someone said milk bone, and it was so stupid to name it after like a dog biscuit that I just thought it was hilarious. And then we had the artist put like a little milk mustache on the skull, which always cracks me up. So
gotta do it.
So then we naturally made a double version. So this is it's pretty intensely hopped. We use a lot of Citra Cryo in this, which is you get a very aromatic punch of hops without too much of that vegetative matter that could be grassy or green or kind of give you that bite. So we went really heavy on the hopping. It's all Citra, but since it's a blend of different types of Citra or different types of hop products, you get a lot more nuance than you would with if it was just we used all the same lot of Citra and just put a bunch into it. So it's got lactose in there, so it's definitely on the sweeter end. Yeah, so we were excited to put this out. and yeah, it sold out really quickly, which was good. But yeah, we got more Bone Tree versions coming out. We got a whole lineup plan, different Bone Tree ones. So we actually just uh, so hops you got to get on contract, so you agree to buy them in future years, and we contracted an absurd amount of Citra. I think the guy said it's like 3 acres of farm just for the Citra that we're buying in not this year, next year. So that's exciting.
Chris, want to add to that?
That is very exciting. I want to say that double milk bone pairs very well with shrimp tacos. So if you happen to have any handy, eat them now.
Desperately trying to finish that slushy.
Rinse the glass out.
Yeah, so I just do it to do.
I really love the orange that comes through on this. The orange meat. Yeah, this is one of the beers that showcases the aroma that I've come to enjoy from Bebo's beers, even on a homebrew scale, for years. And we would do this side by side with other beers we bought at the LCBO or wherever, and we'd line them up and we blind taste test stuff, and we put them in order of aroma and flavor. And Bebo's beers always had the best aroma. Just grandma's peach preserves wafting out of the glass.
Emma says creamsicle.
Nice. I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah, I find the sweetness from the lactose really cuts the bitterness on this. So we could hop it very aggressively, but it keeps it's still very drinkable. Like for an 8% double IPA, you could guzzle that down pretty quickly, even though it's full bodied and it's really heavily hopped. You can get it down quickly.
And I feel like it's drinking even better now than it was before. I don't know if you agree, Bebo.
Yeah.
What's the date on this one again? Can't read in this light.
January 27th. So,
Beautiful. 3 weeks.
yeah.
That's prime right there. It's meaty. This one is it's got a lot of body, a lot of substance. I can't say that I ever feel like I'm thirsting for a lactose IPA, but when you have one and it's it's not overdone, then it's almost better when you don't know it's there. It just look at that in the glass.
So Bebo, being a Chicago boy, the Cubs or the Sox?
Oh, the Cubs. I'm from the South Side, and I'm a South Side Cubs fan. So it was a rough living, especially when the White Sox won the World Series in 2005. It was a very dark period of my life. It was very miserable. I hated it. I hate the White Sox more than I hate most things in this universe. And yeah, so when the Cubs won, it was a glorious thing. It was like the longest Game 7 ever. It was like 2 a.m. I had to work the next day, and I was just like walking around my house bawling. It was an amazing experience.
A South Side boy. I like that.
Yeah, Southside Cubs fans are. There's not too many of us.
No, no, there wouldn't be. So what was your favorite bar in Chicago?
Um, so where I grew up, there was a bar called Tribes that had amazing craft beer. That was the one in like '02, '03 was really like I would go to all the time, and I first had like Allagash White and Dogfish Head 90 Minute and all those kind of beers, and that really was very formative for me in terms of introducing me to like the full spectrum of what craft beer could be. Like I had my first sour there, all this kind of stuff. Um, but if I could go back now and only go to one place, it'd probably be local option. Like I like heavy music and extreme beers, and that's like the perfect, you know, you go there and there's like insane death metal playing at like louder than you could ever comfortably sit and listen to. And the bottle list is insane. So that would be the one.
So I got to go back to a question a little bit earlier and from Troy, and that's is there going to be an outside patio this year at Third Moon?
That's a tough question. It doesn't look like that would be a good idea at the moment. So stay tuned. I mean, we talk about this stuff all the time. We talk about everything all the time. That's, you know, one of the good parts and the bad parts about being so small is that everything is a topic of discussion at all times. If it makes sense to do so, we certainly will. But we want to be safe. We're exposed on all fronts of the business. We don't want to be, you know, opening up additional risk if it's going to put in jeopardy the main core of our business, and that's brewing the beer and making sure it's available. Priority to people who can come pick it up. That's I think that's what we have to really stay focused on. Anything else is gravy, and we of course want to have a place where people can come and hang out and drink beers when the time is right. We'll certainly get that going, but at this point, it does not look soon.
Yeah, like just packaged beer is a tough way to make money. So like the breweries, if you think the breweries that are really doing well with packaged beer are on a significantly larger scale than us and have beers in the LCBO and grocery stores or whatever, like GLB, for example, they probably make more beer in a week than we've made in our entire time that we've been open. The margins are low, the costs are high, products got a short shelf life, distribution issues. So we could take this, you know, 473 mils of beer and sell it in a can for whatever, $6. Or we could fill a glass with a little bit less and probably sell it for the same price or maybe even a little bit more. We won't have to pay for labels. We won't have to pay for cans. So financially it makes sense. But then when you think about, like I said, there's four of us, so we need more staff. And then, you know, we don't have a patio. We have like a miniature little parking lot or like the garbage dumpsters behind our place, and it's not very, you know, appealing to think about. So it would require a lot of upfront money to get the, you know, draft system going and hiring and all this stuff. And every time we start to talk about it, we get excited and think more about like how that would actually go. We're like, all right, I don't know. We'll get there.
I hear you on that one.
Yeah.
So I got a question about the artwork. One, what was the motivation for sending a sticker out with every beer? And the second one being, is the artwork in-house or do you hire someone to do that for you?
So our artist is not in-house. So he's his name's Casey and he goes by Yard Wolves on social media. And kind of met him through a friend and just love his artwork. So he's just agreed to do all of our stuff, and he's an artist but also a graphic designer, so it's like one-stop shop. He's an awesome guy. we throw ridiculous ideas at him, like a milk mustache and a skull, and he's like, "Awesome, let's do it." So we're exclusive with him, but it's not. He's not like an employee of Third Moon, but yeah, we love working with him. He's just as into the creepy, weird stuff as we are, so that's really cool. And the extra stickers are just, when we think how much beer we're gonna get out of like one canning run, I always add an extra buffer when I'm ordering labels just in case we get more out of it, because it would suck to have like a couple cases of beer without labels. So I would just order a little bit more, and then we got nothing to do with them, so we just cut them up and start throwing them in there, and that kind of became our thing. So people have every sticker of every beer that we've done, or really like them. They're fun to hand out, and who doesn't love like some swag? So yeah,
I mean,
it's
when I was a kid, I would write to bands, and they would send back stickers and things. I mean, there's something about the magic of the mail where you just put it out there and then something would show up. And so for me, it's always been about when someone asks you for something or pays you for something, what can you do to make it even more memorable? What can you do to just add to the experience? And our customers are our fans. So why not give them something they can stick on a guitar case or a beer fridge or something, and just that's what we do. We're fans too of this beer. So whenever we can do it, we just want to, I don't know, just make it fun. That's something that I learned from, Mikkeller, most of these bottles behind me from that brewer. Is keep the fun in craft. Like, shouldn't it be? Life is pretty hard otherwise. Let's at least make the beer fun. So that's kind of part of our model is try to have fun with it. Our artwork, our labels, this gets pretty dark, but there's usually something a little bit tongue in cheek. Try not to be too obvious, but there's a little bit of humor. Try not to take yourself too seriously, and it's awesome. I mean, Casey that we work with is, you can have fun, be serious. He knows what format the files need to be. You can ask him anything and he takes it in stride and does it. It's a collaboration that we hope keeps going a long, long time, because he owns his artwork. And we prop him up, and like any good collab, prop each other up.
And like another example is, so we had Death Dealer was the porter. So it's just like skeleton laying there with these 3 arrows sticking out of his chest, which is pretty dark. But for the marshmallow one, we added like little marshmallows on there. It's like, you're roasting them over the campfire. I love that. Like, I'd like to think a lot of artists would feel like we're kind of desecrating their work by saying, "Hey, can you throw some marshmallows on that?" But he's cool with it. So that's a lot of fun. And one more thing about those stickers is that every time my kids come to the brewery, they'll take some home. So like everything at my house is,
Who's to pay a deposit of
here's my
25,000
kid's
within
chair.
24 hours of acceptance of the offer,
Yeah,
and if further
they could be a little bit of a nuisance.
I hear you. I love the sticker idea myself. That was the first thing I pointed out to my wife when I got in this, is I think I've got stickers. So Bibo, you want to talk to me about the Mexican hot chocolate?
Oh yeah, actually, wait 2 seconds. I'm just grabbing up.
Okay.
High level, this beer was complicated to make. We've got in here 2 kinds of cacao nibs, 3 kinds of chili pepper, of cinnamon, and 4 kinds of chili peppers. So a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of work from the brewing team on making this happen.
So yeah, so our kind of line of imperial stouts or pastry stouts it's called bestowed. So we always have like a skull or a skeleton hand holding peanut butter cup or whatever it is. So this one is Mexican hot chocolate. So it's inspired by one of my all-time favorite beers is Hunapoo by Cigar City. So that's the one that kind of put this style on the map for me. So it's big imperial stout with cinnamon, vanilla, chocolate, and chili peppers. So there's a few other breweries that make really good versions of it, and everyone kind of bends their own style. Some are a little more spicier, some are a little more cinnamon. So I love hot sauce, but I don't really enjoy spicy beers. So my inspiration for this was to find more flavor from the chilies than spice. So I use ones you would normally use in like a chili, or if you're making like a mole sauce or something. But like Chris was saying, we threw everything in there, let it sit, and there was like no spice from it. So we ramped it up a little bit, and just a little bit and a little bit, and then finally it's like, okay, that's it right there. So what I was going for is just like a little tickle in the back of your throat after you swallow. But really, like Chris was saying, multiple types of chocolate, multiple types of cinnamon. I'm just trying to get a lot of complexity in the beer. And yeah, it was challenging to make. And it's funny, Mark, I was talking to him, and he was like, how do you know how much stuff to put in there? I was like talking about it, and he's like, but like, how do you know? Like, how do you go from like a little bit to a lot? And like, how do you even know? And I just admitted, like, I don't know. We just throw it in there and see how it works and keep tasting it. So it was a learning experience, but yeah, I'm really happy with it. I think this is my favorite one yet. And then from just like a brewer's perspective, like, these big beers are challenging to make, and then all throughout the brewing process, from when you brew it until it's in the bottle, there's little areas where you can mess up. So I felt like this was the cleanest execution, start to finish, if we ignore the adjuncts, which is probably what most people would think of. But just thinking about the base beer, like, I'm always tweaking them, working on different water, pH, grains, things like that, gravities, to try and get the base to where I want it, so that whatever we're going to add could shine a little bit stronger. So this was one that the core beer itself, I was really happy with it. So I think that allowed the adjuncts that we're adding in there to pop even more.
I like that this is it feels like a complex ride to me. Whereas some of our past bestows have been just bonk you over the head. You're going to get this flavor. It is bestowed upon you. This one is kind of doled out in layers. I get the dark chocolate. Then I get the bit of cinnamon spice. And on the finish, I'm getting that heat, and it just lingers. It just sits there. You're not searching for it. You're just sitting on it, just riding. Yeah, I really enjoy this one. And I haven't been able to figure out any good pairings for it, because it's just good on its own.
We have a chocolatier in Woodstock who actually conches his own chocolate and is vegan, so he doesn't add milk solids into it or sugar. And he does a chili one. It would be perfect with this.
Wow.
However, I'm enjoying this all on its own, and I would enjoy it all on its own.
It's such a nice session ender for me. Just that lingering heat.
So, Chris, you alluded earlier to mastering things and then moving out, and mastering that and moving out. So Naomi asked an interesting question further back about what's next for Chris and Bevo.
Well, the laws in Ontario are such that you can brew in one place and sell in two. So our 5-year plan was always to have the production facility, which we have now, and then open within 5 years a second place that'll be retail zoning. It's prettier. It's got the 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 tap room that we dream of, that we envision, with the patio, kitchen, and so that's certainly what we would like to do as well, and keep brewing in the place we're brewing now, and still have that be a place where people can come and get the beer with a modest tap room as well. So that's, I mean, that stuff seems so far away right now, but everything has happened so quickly. 4 months in, we got a couple extra tanks. Then we're looking now again at increasing capacity as quickly as we can, just so we don't miss out on being able to have beers ready that people are thirsting for. These are great problems to have. They're very immediate. When you make a 5-year plan about what do we want to do, what do we want to achieve, there are a lot of things on that list, and so I think that'll be important for us to hit. We also, the rape beer thing was very exciting. The batch of beer that we sent to Copenhagen for Mikkeller for their December beer box, their monthly subscription box, that was pretty exciting. So I think we're trying to still enjoy the things that are happening, and as long as we're still doing things that feel right to us, feel exciting, and feel like we're still fans of that, then that's what we're going to be focusing our energy on. So I'm sure there'll be some twists and turns and some exciting opportunities that'll present themselves, but that's kind of the trajectory that we're headed on. Is how do we, once we can make the beer in the volume that we need, how do we provide an even better experience than at home drinking by yourself?
Yeah, we also have for our first anniversary, so we got a bunch of beer in barrels that we're excited about. We also lined up a bunch of extremely cool collabs that we're extremely excited about. That I just can't believe that we're even lining them up. So yeah, our first anniversary is going to be a lot of fun. We're looking at doing more home deliveries. We're ramping those up, remote drops at other friendly breweries who are a little bit further out. Just different ways to get people our beer, and like Chris was saying, ramping up production. So our business plan was we're going to brew once a week for the first year. So we're going to do 52 brews in the first year.
Wow.
And we're 9 months in, and I just did batch 85 the other day. So yeah, we're probably going to hit 100 this year. So that's pretty wild.
Wow. So I'll ask this. You can both answer, or just one of you answer. If you could travel back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Bend at the knees.
Oh, dude, mine would be take care of your injuries and let them heal. We're hurting units.
Yeah,
Most people start with doing the hard labor, and then they advance to managerial positions where they can sit behind a desk, put their feet up. Bibo and I did it the wrong way.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great answer. Yeah.
That's so funny. That's both of us were thinking the exact same thing. My body hurts. My body hurts.
My back hurts. Wearing compression socks. It's like,
Guys, you're not doing the romance of being a brewery owner any good. You're letting people realize that there's a lot of hard work, long hours, and no pay in it.
yeah, literally no pay. We have not been paid a single cent from Third Moon.
Yeah. Save the romance for Instagram. This is the real deal.
If there was one thing that you would like everyone to take away from our chat this evening, what would that be?
I mean, I would say we've all got dreams. I mean, I've been, I'm a singer songwriter as well. I've been in bands for years writing music. And there's a song I wrote 15 years ago that the whole thing was about, just doing what you're passionate about. And I would sing that song, Fantasy World. And I was thinking about music and like, oh man, I wasn't able to make that a career like I thought I hoped I could. But the only other thing that I really have been as passionate about is craft beer. And so out of necessity, because Bebo and I, it's all we thought about or talked about for a long, long time, we just had to do it because it was getting in the way of everything else in our lives. Yeah, but actually, you really have no excuse but to just start putting time aside to work towards whatever it is that gets you excited about living. Because otherwise, like, what are we doing? We're sitting here in other people's lives. So, I would say if there's anything that you really were excited about doing, and you think like, how do I wish I could do that. Well, you get to that by putting time aside every week and just doing something and trying to check something off the list every day. Just make some forward movement, bite-sized chunks. Don't go from A to Z in one step. Go from A to B, and then B to C, and C to D, and you can get there. And this is only the start of a long journey for Bebo and I, and we're really excited to have you guys along for the journey. You guys are the ones helping us shape this. We're not doing this in a vacuum. We're doing this. We're putting ourselves out there. We're taking the risks. We're saying, what do you think? Not everything's going to be batted out of the park winner, but we're trying to be true to ourselves and brewing the beers that get us excited and make us feel like this would be worth doing. I don't know, Bebo, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I think for me, if I wanted someone to take something away, it would be like we're very, very passionate about what we do. We put our heart and souls into this, and not that that makes any that doesn't make the beer better, but I like to think that it does. And I don't know, it's been a crazy journey. It's been, Chris joked we didn't go bankrupt, but it really felt like we were very close multiple times, more times than I think we would care to admit. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. And then to think, like I was saying before, about like these milestones that feel bigger at the time and in hindsight don't. I'd like to think that, maybe one day that rate beer top 5 thing would not be that big a deal because we've gone on to even bigger and better things. But time will tell. We just got to wake up tomorrow and can some slushies and this train rolling.
Chris, Bebo, thank you for taking time and out of your busy lives and sharing your story with us and your beers. And remind everybody, next week it's birthday time for me, and Graham Spence Block 3 will be on. And go out the sidewalk, check out Mark's collab with Third Moon.
Yeah,
and
it's sold out now. The only place you can get it is from Mark.
That's right.
And I'm going to stop recording now.